It is time to grab your dose of compassion. Share your story and solve your anxiety and depression. Welcome to Keep Calm in a Crazy World with your host, Jodi Amon.
Hey everyone, welcome to Keep Calm Radio with me, Jodi Amon, and tonight I'm so excited. Isn't she the best? Look, we matched our picture.
I know.
Isn't that great?
We didn't even really coordinate that.
I have turquoise everywhere. I love it. It's just such a beautiful color. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is Sheila Kennedy from the Zebra Ink. She's an author, a speaker, and a publisher, and she's going to be talking to us about the healing power of a story, and you're going to love it because she knows exactly how everyone here feels. She's been where everyone is. She's the biggest heart, and is incredibly smart and just amazing person. You guys are going to love hearing her story and what she has to say about how powerful it is to tell your story for yourself and for the people who are listening or reading.
Well,
right?
thank you. My goodness.
I love this woman so much. So much.
Well, we have a mutual admiration society. I feel the same way about you. So.
Yeah. Oh, we have a lot of fun. Well, Sheila's from Rochester, so it's so exciting to have her live in here. It's just a much more fun interview, and we could laugh and hang out together. So thanks everyone for being here. You could comment, ask questions all along. My little phone is a little farther away from me, but I can still read. I'm not that old. I can still read your questions and your comments. So please, thank you for the thumbs up already. Please give me more hearts and thumbs up. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spreaker, I broadcast live on Facebook at 6 p.m. on Monday evenings, and you could join me and you could ask me your questions live next time. So let's get started. Oh, how about that? How about we get started?
Why not?
How about we hear about you?
All right.
So tell me, why is storytelling healing?
Oh, goodness. Well, I think for a lot of reasons, right? I think it gives validation to who we are. And I think as human beings, our biggest need is to connect, right? And to feel connected with people. And when we tell our story, it's an invitation to connect with other people. It gives them the platform, or it gives them that invitation to connect with who you are. And sometimes the story is going to resonate with people, and sometimes it's not. But that's really secondary, I think. I think what's really important is that you've actually extended yourself and who you are and what makes up everything about you with somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, humans, we're storytellers. Like we think of and we remember our lives like through a theme, through time, the sequence of events.
Right.
I mean, that's how we experience the world, is through stories.
Right. Well, and I think that it's easy to remember, right? So if you know,
makes it easy.
It was very interesting. A friend of mine, Heather Podesta, she had listened to 100 speakers a couple weeks ago at Harvard something or another, and she was commenting that she remembered. There were some of the speakers that she wrote down and critiqued all of them, but there were some that even though she saw their picture, she couldn't remember their story, and because they didn't tell one. But it was the people that actually told part of their story, even if it had nothing to do with their expertise per se, then she didn't really remember, and so that because again she had nothing to connect with.
Yeah.
Right? So that's our gateway to connecting with each other.
When you hear a speaker, when you hear somebody, it's a story that you remember, mostly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's what you take away, like the essence of the story, the energy of the story, like the transition, or that's what inspires you.
Right. Well, and it was really interesting because as I grow professionally, when I first started my businesses and things like that, I didn't want to tell the story. Like, I just wanted you to understand that I was an expert in certain things and that I was going to tell you how to get out of things. I was going to share skills and strategies, and you just had to trust why I knew that.
Yeah.
And
how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, not so much.
Who are you?
Right?
You don't know anything about me.
Exactly.
You don't understand.
Exactly. And so it wasn't until I started telling the stories and I started using the language that I knew was really attracting people because they were connecting with it because that was happening to them too, where I started to grow and, you know, all of that good stuff. So it really is powerful.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Before we started, you were talking about how you had one story about yourself, and when you started to share it, people helped you break that down. So there is something about, you know, you sharing your story, it's healing because you're sharing your story and connecting with people. But also, sometimes we have a story that's not true.
Right. Well, you know, that's the topic for my next book.
How many of you have stories that are not true?
Yeah.
Give me a thumbs up if you have a story that you know that is maybe really much more negative than you deserve. Maybe you're not going to admit it because you really think it's true.
Right.
We're going to do something about that tonight.
We're going to fix that.
Yeah.
Well, we can't fix it. You can fix it. But, you know, I think the beauty of it is that a story is something that we can look at and we can ask it some questions, right? Is this really true? Is this real? Is this how we want to be defined?
So we become an audience to our own story.
Right. And then...
So the story allows us to take a step out of the chaos of whatever's happening.
Yeah. And we get to decide if that's the story we want to be telling. And if this is how we want to be defined. Is that the story? And not that we're playing with facts. That's not what I mean. You know, but sometimes we don't understand what the facts are really telling us. And we think that they say that we're bad people or that we are worthy of bad things happening to us or negative things happening to us.
Very common story.
Yeah, but in truth, that's not it at all. That's where guilt comes in and shame comes in and all of those. Because
no one out there has any guilt and shame, right?
Never, never. But that's where those emotions come from, is telling stories that are not necessarily based in truth.
Right.
Right?
They're based in this negative self-judgment.
Yeah.
It's really beating yourself up like, I must have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I get myself in there?
Right. For years and years, I thought I was just a bad wife, or I wasn't a good enough wife, and I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a good enough mom. I did, you know, bad things, whatever. And it wasn't until I finally decided to step out of that perfectionist, you know, not good enough mold and shared some of the things that were happening to me that somebody was like, you know what, honey, that's not necessarily you. And that maybe you're not really the problem. And thank goodness I had the courage to share some of that story because it got me out of a very detrimental situation. Yeah. And so I really think it's incredibly powerful to share those stories. When I was going through therapy not too long ago, you know, again, I believed all the things that my shame was telling me was true, and the things that my guilt was saying was absolutely true about me. And when I finally started sharing those stories, I had the ability to poke holes through that and see that those were just stories that were deceiving me. And that wasn't serving me well. And so I, you know, through that learned how to forgive myself and learned, you know, how to speak more positively about myself, see my values, see that I was worthy of good things happening and that I could actually create good things. Yeah. And so...
was that voice, you know, that guilt and stuff that was going on and that negative self-judgment, did it seem like it was like a voice that you carried from somebody that you heard say those things a lot?
I think that's how it probably started. You know, sometimes we have an event, sometimes it could be a passing look from a stranger, right. And you're like, I knew I shouldn't have worn that today. And, you know, they're looking at my shirt when actually, in fact, they were probably looking at something well beyond you, passing you on the street.
They're in their own heads, right? Worried about their own stuff. They're judging them own selves. Yeah. But that, you know, but then we're going to carry that for years and years and years. Right. And how, you know, but if we could just share the story and complete the narrative to see if it's true and real and something that, you know, actually defines us, then we don't have those problems and we don't carry on this added baggage of, you know, shame, guilt, and all that. So that's the benefit of having somebody else to reflect that off of when you have that story. And Julie, Julie's asking, can you talk more about forgiving yourself? Because that was pretty powerful, huh, Julie? Like hearing that she's like, I forgave myself, and you could see my face too. Like, please tell us more, because everybody on this broadcast is going to want to know how to forgive themselves. It's something that we don't learn in school.
Right. No, that's one of those skills that
we have to claw through the muck to figure it out. So tell me, what can you tell Julie?
Okay, Julie, let's see. It was hard. I am not going to sugarcoat it. It was hard because it was hard to let go of the fact that I wasn't necessarily responsible. And even if I was, that it was okay, because as a human being, I'm messy. And I have messy things happen to me, and I get myself in the middle of all kinds of messiness. But the beautiful thing is that I forgave myself for doing or thinking and acting in the way that I did, because I was doing the best I could at the time. And when we do the best we can in every moment, then there's nothing to forgive. We're just doing the best we can. And so when we look at our lives through that framework, there's actually nothing to forgive. And you can actually learn to love yourself.
So forgiveness is just not judging yourself negatively.
Yeah, I really think that. And I think that other people, when we forgive others, it's really about our perception of what's happened that we're actually letting go of.
Right.
Right?
Ooh.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. So when we do that story or that anger, that whatever it is, has no more power over us. And so we get to decide that.
Right.
And that's pretty powerful, but that only happens when we...
Forgiveness is like unpinning yourself from... unpinning, like abuse from the past or something bad that happened to you or something that you're holding on to is like pins you down to the ground, holds you there.
Yeah.
And I always see forgiveness as like taking those pins out and you're not pinned down.
Right.
So it's not like saying it's okay that it happened.
No.
It's not like letting someone get off scot-free for something they shouldn't have done. It's not saying you didn't deserve to be hurt.
No.
It's taking those pins out and getting up off the floor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I often use the analogy, think of a ball of yarn, and it's all wound up and it's all tied up and knotted and things like that. And that's what forgiveness is kind of like, is unrolling that so that you can get to the heart of that truth. Right?
And you can breathe.
Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, all this stuff that's covering me up is now gone, and you have the wings to fly.
I could feel myself expand. Just I was thinking of that. I could picture that yarn coming out, and then did you feel? I was like,
she did.
Literally,
she really did.
I was like, I could breathe.
She really did.
Yeah.
So
well, Jules, tell us if that helped at all. If you want to know a little bit further about that. And Helene says she does not like it when someone criticizes you. Helene, you're human. Of course, you're not going to like that. Yeah. It feels really bad, and we think that we have to be evolved enough to not let that stuff bother us, and that's kind of silly, isn't it? We're human, and that hurts our feelings. And if we had compassion for ourselves and understood, remember I say every time you feel anything, you say, get it, right? Then you're validating yourself, and then you could take a step back and see why they said what they did. It's usually about them, not about you. But I don't say to do that first and be all involved that you're not going to get upset. First, you have compassion for yourself because you are a human being, and of course, that's going to hurt you. Yeah. So thanks, Helene, for asking that. And, yeah, it's beautiful. Forgiveness is really hard because people, think it's so complicated or think it means it's okay, or and I see people in my practice hold on to that hurt because they feel like if they let it go, that would mean they're unworthy.
Right. Well, and I think it's just, the whole, what opens up when we allow ourselves to not feel responsible. I think as human beings, we like to blame people. And usually we accept that blame for ourselves. Yeah. Right? And so that's what self-forgiveness is all about, is not accepting the blame, because we're just doing what we do. And it doesn't make it right or wrong or place judgment or anything like that. It just is what it is. And that doesn't excuse bad behavior, but I think that we just have to look at ourselves through that lens of love instead of, a lens of unworthiness or, despising what you see and all those other things. As somebody who's had body image issues for, most of my life, I can forgive my body for not being perfect, and it's okay. But it's taken me 46 years to get to that place.
Yeah.
So I totally get what it's like to hang on to that. But as soon as I started to forgive that it's not a photoshopped image and that it's not perfect and it's, and really looked at it for what it is, well, that created an entirely whole new freedom that I never experienced before.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Like you have a new relationship or a new story about your body.
Exactly.
You rewrote it.
I did. And we can do that.
We could totally do that.
Yeah, because our stories evolve.
Yeah.
See, I think our stories evolve as we learn new things, as we experience new things, as we encounter new people. All of those, the things that we thought even were truth before can evolve into something that's different and more beautiful than it was before. So...
Excellent.
So we always have the opportunity to rewrite what's happening to us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I made my whole life on that.
Yeah, me too.
Helping people rewrite their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add, and Julie did say something. She said, forgiving myself is really hard for you to do. I know. Was it hard for you? I mean, I know we're talking about stories, but we're digressing, but is it okay to ask that?
Oh, sure.
Okay. You are not alone, Jules. We think that we're the only ones. It's hard for us and everyone else has it easy. It is not easy for everybody, and you're the only one it's hard for. I promise you. You are not alone in this. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's hard for me and everyone else could do it. And, when we're upset, we see everyone else and we think they're fine and we're the only ones upset. Everyone looks confident around us. Mm-hmm. Did you think that at one point?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well... I mean, nobody could ever imagine what I was going through because everybody else was really good.
She looked like she was awesome. She looked like she's got her whole self together.
No.
And she really convinced everybody.
All right? Because that was important and that was the narrative I wanted people to believe, is that I had everything together and that I was strong and capable and all of these wonderful things. And I am all of those things. However, I didn't believe I was all of those things. And so inside, I felt like a fraud. I thought like it was, I was just lying. And I really wasn't. I just was really lying to myself.
I mean, you were holding yourself together because you thought if you were vulnerable at all, that's it. It would be totally, hurt and killed. And
Yeah, no, it was awful.
But this is the thing, I mean, Sheila's come through so much, and I hope that you're hearing from her words the depth of pain from her story, and she's really emphasizing, this love, and it sounds all so great. I don't want you to think that she wasn't in pain.
No.
Because you're even sort of sounding like...
Yeah, like it's cavalier, right, and I don't mean that at all. I think I tend to diminish how hard the journey was, and it still is. I still have stuff, I'm continually, daily addressing it. That doesn't go away. But the perfect example of the beauty of the story is that Julie shared that forgiving herself was difficult. Well, if you hadn't shared that part of the story with us, we wouldn't be able to address that. We wouldn't be able to connect with that. The most powerful words in the human language, there's two most powerful words in the human language, says Brene Brown, right? And that's me too. Oh. And so we can't connect. We can't feel like we're not alone if we don't share the experience. If I wasn't able to tell my story tonight, then I wouldn't be able to connect with you and have you tell me yours. And so even though we don't know the specifics necessarily of our story, we know that we've had a common experience and that self-forgiveness is really hard. And but the good news is that we're not alone in that pursuit, and we just can encourage each other and keep going because we know that it's possible. And so that, I think, the power of story is showing people what is possible. And even if you're at the bottom of the barrel right now and you're hit rock bottom, then guess what? There's other people that have been there too, and they look at them and see that is not necessarily the story for them anymore, but they're not going to forget, and they're going to help you up that climb if you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jules knows when she gets in a community of other people who understand her experience, it's incredibly healing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we were talking, Elaine, you referred to this a little bit, but my next question was, what's the contribution to the audience when you tell the story? Your readers or your audience if you're speaking. You know, we're talking about how it really heals you because you're your own audience to it, and you get that validation and connection to others reflected back. But what about the audience? What's the power to help the audience if you, as an author?
Well, I think we don't remember the facts of a textbook, but we do remember nursery rhymes. Why? Because they're a story. We remember fairy tales because they're a story. We don't necessarily remember what our math textbook said because it's all facts and figures and things like that, right? So if we want people to understand the meaning behind, if we have something we want them to learn, especially, we tell them a story about it because it's something that's memorable. And so that's really important, I think. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And like Jules, like she got to see that other people understand. And even another, Helene had wrote that she understands Jules too. So, here it is. I'm sure there's lots of people who are thinking that way and are not commenting. Go ahead and comment. Or just do a thumbs up. A lot of people are doing thumbs up because they don't want to comment, but just put a thumbs up. And that means you understand what we're talking about. If you feel like, oh my gosh, that might be a really powerful way for me to heal. We're all in our healing journey. We all have a lot of stuff. Thank you so much. We all have a lot of stuff going on. If we wanted to use storytelling as healing, what are some first things that we could do?
Well, I think the first thing to do is start journaling.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I think that that's really powerful. It helps you define what it is that you want to tell. And maybe, I know for me, it was really hard for me to even admit some of the things that I needed to really look at and lean into as I've been on that healing journey. And, sometimes I'll write something, I'm like, where did that come from? But it is a really powerful piece of the story because we've hidden it, right? And our bodies are so very protective. Our bodies are beautiful. They're designed to protect us from trauma and things like that. And so sometimes as we remember things, as we're writing things, it's our body's way of saying, okay, you're capable, you're ready to remember this, and you're ready to face this and to handle this. And I think that that's really important to remember so that it doesn't feel like it's disconnected. It's actually, a sign that you're going deeper into it, which means greater healing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Sheila helps people tell their story through writing books. She helps people publish books, and she helps people know how to organize and put a platform together and figure out and build the confidence that they need to do that. So you have a new project coming up.
I do.
She's announcing it here for the very first time.
Right? That's kind of fun. So it's called Writer's Circle, and what I've noticed is that I always have a book in progress, right? So I need accountability and I need support, and so I'm always collecting resources on, how to write better and, things like that. But I also like the accountability part of that. When I write books for other people, I usually will meet with them on a weekly basis once I start getting, the writing started. Because
she's an awesome ghostwriter. Forgot to mention that.
So as I do that, because I need the accountability, I need to make progress every week. But I also, when you write books, and I know you can speak to this, that vulnerability it can be crippling sometimes, right? And so instead of, being crippled by our insecurities and our vulnerability, if we share it and we speak it and we tell the story about it, then we actually move past it and we get some stuff done. And so I wanted to be able to build a community of people who are writing and thinking about being authors. And so they may have written one book or a million books. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter who publishes them. If you think you want to be an author, or you already are, and you want some support and encouragement while you're writing, I would love it if you would join the Writer's Circle.
You go to thezebrainc.com. It's
Yeah.
up in the description of this video on the top. It's Sheila's Facebook page, and then that is her website on the homepage of the website.
Yes, if you go to the menu, there's a menu that says Writer Circle, and you just click that, and it'll take you right to the page, and you can get signed up.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone have any questions for us before we say good night? So happy to be here, and
thank you so much for letting me come today and interviewing me or whatever. I love spending time with Jodi, and I know that
if we do a coffee date, it's like 3 or 4 hours.
It
long.
is.
It's
is.
like, yeah, I'll meet you there for 45 minutes. It's
Right.
like 4 hours really canceled the rest of our day.
Right.
We like stay up really late to get our work done because we've just used our time
It's
up.
true. It's true. But it's okay. It's always time well spent. So.
Awesome. Let's see. Jules is asking again. And Jules is an author too. She
All
wrote her
right.
story down.
Nice.
And I've read that book, and it's Boulders. Let's see. I forgot the name of your book, Jules. Sorry. And I think you have a couple of them by now. Okay, I know I'm asking a lot. Once you write a book, how does one get brave enough to share the poetry you wrote in front of a group of people? Like slam poetry? I don't know.
very
Go to a
cool.
little coffee shop where you don't know anyone. There's only a few people, and the open mic night. And so that might be or try with the people you know, sharing your poetry. It's a beautiful expression.
Or you could do Facebook Live.
Or you could do a Facebook Live.
Right? And just put it out there. And if you don't like the way it looked or whatever, then you get to delete it.
One day, Jules, when I was first doing Facebook Live, and I was like, it was like Thanksgiving morning, and I didn't put any makeup on or anything, and I wanted to do a meditation for everybody, and I just pointed the camera at a candle. Do you guys remember that? Who remembers that? And so I pointed the camera at a candle, and I spoke. And one time I was at the beach, and I saw this really cool seaweed, and I pointed the camera at the seaweed, and I told what I was feeling and thinking about the seaweed. So even if you don't want to be on there, and I think, Jules, I think you would be on there, but maybe with your poetry, first step, it's like, take a baby step. That's easier. And I know you could write, and you've shared your story through writing, so it's just one more little step for you. But great question. Think about the sky's the limit. I mean, you could perform for pets to start. You could perform on Facebook without the camera, without looking at the camera, then with looking at the camera. You could record a video not live.
Right.
That might be easier, right? I mean, there's so many different options, and or you could perform for little kids. Sometimes it's easy, of course, if it's depends on the topic, but sometimes it's really much easier to perform to young people than it is to like peers or something, or older people.
Right.
So
Go to nursing homes.
Yeah,
They'd love it.
they would.
Yeah.
They would love it anytime. Let me just see if I missed it. Okay, there's a couple. Thanks, Helene, for all your comments. Susan, Jodi, I got my coloring book today. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Everybody, my coloring book, my official launch day is August 23rd. You can wait till that day to buy it. If you buy it early, please, please, please give me a little review on there. It would help me so much. But if you click the link above, not Sheila's link, that's there too, but the other link at the bottom, that will schedule a Facebook post. So you'll share my coloring book that day.
Yay.
August 23rd, and you don't have to think about it. Click that link. It takes 2 seconds, and then you never have to think about it again. But it will help my daughter and my coloring book so much. And it is it's an intuitive piece of coloring that I think has a lot of healing energy to it. So you're going to love it. But thanks, Susan, for getting it. I would love a review. It's easy because you don't have to read it too much. I mean, it only takes like an hour. You can look through it and write
awesome.
something. Oh, Boulders in My Life That Shaped My Journey. That's her.
Oh,
and The
beautiful.
Journey Back to Myself, a book of healing poetry. Thanks,
Awesome.
Jules.
Yeah.
Well, so happy. I haven't talked to Jules in a really long time. So happy
Very
to have you
cool.
on tonight. Thank you, everybody. I am here every Monday, 6 p.m. Next week, I'm hoping to have another guest. I'm working on a guest live in Rochester also. And we're going to be talking about food, I think. So, woohoo! Say some prayers that I booked that person. So, okay, so Monday at 6 p.m.
Awesome.
I will see you here. Thanks so much,
Thank
Sheila.
you. Oh, I had so much fun. It's always a good time with you.
Isn't she the
Really
best?
appreciate. Hey, y'all, go out and tell your stories.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. It's good, and it might be really scary, but it's gonna be okay.
You are
Trust me.
so much more than those negative stories.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, love you
Have
all.
fun.
Mwah,
Bye-bye.
mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye.